What's going on, guys? Let me say right away that if the mic sounds a little bit funny, I apologize. I think that it's going to sound at least okay and bearable. I don't really have access to my equipment at home, so I'm having to work with what I have. But hopefully it'll be okay. And let's just go forward. In fact, I think it will be okay. I've done this before, and it didn't turn out to have the same quality as when I make it at home, but it did turn out okay. So I think that'll be the same here. But anyway, today I want to discuss a topic that's pretty serious. And I kind of hoped that I really didn't need to discuss it, but it seems like, I guess what you might want to call a cover up is beginning already. And it seems like some of the people that I really respect might be involved in it. And when I say people, I'm talking about influencers, YouTube influencers, maybe. Now, I was listening to Risk It for the Biscuit, who is a YouTuber that I really admire. I love his work, but he had a show celebrating the ABK deal and the fact that the FTC was turned down by the Ninth Circuit. So now Xbox can go on with Microsoft Xbox can go on and close the deal whenever they're ready. And so, I tuned in, and because, of course, I wanted to be a part of that. But I heard something during the discussion that really kind of took me back. Now, first of all, let me say this. I'm one of these people that believe in dealing with a situation for what it is. I'm not into cult thing. I'm not into, everybody else is saying this and they're thinking this way, so yeah, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to kind of go that way as well. So I see this subject coming up, and it's about Bobby Kotick. Now, let me say this. I am not one of these Me Too movement type people. I don't like to politicize things. I like to deal with something for what it is. If something is wrong, it's wrong. If something is right, it's right. If a wrong is being exaggerated, then that wrong is being exaggerated, and that exaggeration needs to be called out. And when it comes to the topic that we're going to discuss here, I believe that sexual harassment should be taken very seriously. Now, on the flip side of that, I believe that sexual harassment should be taken serious as well, or rather claims of sexual harassment, when they're discovered to be false. When a woman accuses a man of rape, we've seen it. She accuses a man of rape. Turns out the man didn't rape anybody. There have even been some men who went to prison and come to find out they got released later because come to find out, and in some cases, the women will admit that the man didn't rape them. I believe that those women should go to prison. Unfortunately, at least from the incidents that I've seen, that doesn't happen. So I'm not one of these people who believe in the I'm not going to call any names because I don't want to throw any political figures out there, but one political figure, a female, actually said, if a woman says she was sexually harassed or if a woman says she was raped, just believe her. Well, that's nonsense. You can't just believe her, because the truth of the matter is that sexual harassment claims have been made that turned out to be false. Rape claims have been made that turned out to be false. And to me, the worst enemy of true victims of both of those things are women who make false claims. So I want to make it clear right away. I'm not some Cape Crusader here trying to impress women by coming up talking about this subject of the sexual harassment that took place at Activision Blizzard. I'm looking at Risk It for the Biscuit, and I see this guy. Let me see. What's his name here? Jedi Knight Peter, I believe. So he has Everborn Saga, who I'm very familiar with. I have respect for him. Infinite Umbra, and of course Risk It for the Biscuit. And then there's a young lady there. Her name is Doom Cutie. I'm not really familiar with her, but lately I've been seeing her. I think she came on to Boomstick's show one time. I saw her on a couple of podcasts. I've been seeing her a lot lately, but I'm not really familiar with her. I'm not subscribed to her channel. Now and I'm not subscribed to this guy Jedi Knight Peter either. But I do follow Infinite Umbra, and I follow Everborn Saga, and I follow Risk It for the Biscuit. And the young lady at the top here, Doom Cutie, I've seen her on their various shows or shows that they were on. But this guy, Jedi Knight Peter, said something to me that really kind of took me back. And what really took me back later was, after I thought about it, was the fact that none of these people called him out for it. Now, we've lately heard people talk about Lena Khan and how she tried to put everything on her staff. And, people laughed at it. They discussed that on this podcast as well. And people are like laughing at it like, first of all, people are basically saying that she's lying, which more than likely she is. She's probably involved in all of the decisions that's been made It's probably been her right behind it all along, but she's blaming staff. Staff this, staff that, staff decides this, when staff views things this way, this, that, and the other. She's totally trying to cleanse herself of any blame, and people are calling her out for it, and they should. Well, let me go ahead and throw his name out there. That's the same for Bobby Kotick. Now, this guy, Jedi Knight Peter, he actually said that Bobby Kotick probably knew nothing about what was going on.
Pete, what do you think? Because I know you had a number in your mind. Like we were talking about it last night.
Honestly, my view on Bobby Kotick was very controversial at the time. I was of the opinion that he might not have known what was going on in this company, and I think it was only a small number of people that were causing the problems. Now, they did get fined in a very, very left-wing jurisdiction, has to say, California. They got fined, I think, $35 million, which is nothing to them. I think we pointed out on that third quarter of that year, they made $2.06 billion. So it was literally nothing. And Bobby Kotick has actually been elevated, in my opinion, when you see how shrewd he is. When he was up on that stand, he was very reserved. He was very stated fact. He knew, what he was doing, and the amount of money and the shrewdness of his business. It was really elevated him, in my opinion. So I started looking into him a little bit more, and I saw this thing where he is hired. He started a thing where he hires ex-veterans, and he's hired 50,000 ex-veterans that are in high-paying positions in an initiative that he started. So none of these good things about Bobby Kotick are being spoken about. So I do think he will get moved on, but I think the transition period will be 2 years.
Now, first of all, let's look at that. The only way someone can say something like that and it would be understandable why they might say it is if they really didn't look into what was going on at Activision Blizzard. And I have to tell you, I rarely use the word unbelievable because I've seen a lot of things. I've seen some bad stuff. But I have to tell you, when I was researching and reading what was going on at Activision Blizzard, I thought to myself, wow, now that is unbelievable. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, they should really make a movie out of that situation that happened over there. They really should. I mean, it was just off the chain. I cannot believe that people were engaging in such childish and perverted and disgusting activity and didn't believe that one day it might actually come back. I mean, the stuff that they were doing, man. I mean, they were even, like, for example, they had I believe you call it a lactate room where women are allowed to go in and breastfeed. I believe they're called lactation rooms. They had a room designated for pregnant women for some reason. I forgot what it was, and I think it was that. And some of the male management would take that room and take it over and have meetings and just have it, just they would hog it all day when the room wasn't even for that. And they would have other rooms that they could have went in, but they would choose to take that room. That's just the kind of thing. And then you had people who were crawling under the cubicles, under the desk, crawling under women's desk in front of everybody so everybody can see it. They weren't even trying to hide it, and they were looking up women's skirts, and they were actually laughing about it. You had a situation where a manager had sex with a woman, and apparently he took pictures of her. He allowed people to see the pictures, and that woman was so humiliated, she took her own life. So I'm saying all this to say it's more unbelievable that Bobby Kotick didn't know what was going on than it is unbelievable to believe that Lena Khan didn't know what was going on over at the FTC and everything was the staff's fault. Don't get me wrong, she's full of it. She knew about everything, but so did Bobby Kotick. There's no way that he didn't know. But now we have to also consider the thing that lets us know that he factually did know about some sexual harassment that was going on because he called a woman and left a message on her answering service threatening to kill her if she went forward with sexual harassment claims. Now, what's even more incredible is this guy, Jedi Knight Peter, makes this comment saying that Bobby Kotick didn't know what was going on over there, or more than likely didn't know what was going on. And not one of these very informed people, Risk It for the Biscuit, Infinite Umbra, Everborn Saga, Doom Cutie, not one of them mentioned what Bobby did. Not one of them mentioned the fact that Bobby himself actually played a role in the sexual harassment and covering up the sexual harassment, because that was also something that was, being charged towards Activision Blizzard too, towards the management, was that they were covering it up. They were doing a lot of covering it up. They were covering for each other. So he actually committed the worst crime of all of them, because that I've heard, none of those other managers was actually threatening to take someone's life. Bobby Kotick left a message on an answering service. How dumb do you have to be to do that, by the way? And threatened to take this woman's life if she insisted on going forward with sexual harassment charges against someone who worked for him. So to say that Bobby Kotick didn't know anything about it, that to me, when I consider the source and when I consider the fact that these people heard him say that and nobody called it out. No one even mentioned, being nice about it. Hey, I'm sure you probably forgot, but let's not forget that Bobby Kotick did this and he did that. So, obviously he did know what was going on, more than likely. When you consider the fact that out of all of the cover-ups that was going on there, his was the worst, because it actually involved threatening someone's life. He actually told someone, hey, if you keep pursuing this, I'm going to have you killed. Okay, so I would say that more than likely, my money says that he knew about all of it and actually supported it, and probably was involved in some other cover-ups as well, where he wasn't directly involved, but he was indirectly involved in the cover-up. So I just don't believe that any of these people don't know about that. Now, would I like to find out that they didn't know? I would be slightly disappointed, because I kind of look at them as people who are well informed in the industry. But if you don't know about something like that and you're an influencer, especially Infinite Umbra, he's very intelligent. He knows a lot of stuff about this industry. You're not going to tell me he didn't know about that. So my point here is that this makes me believe that there's going to be some sort of cover up, if you will, or attempt to cover up. I don't think it's going to be successful, because I believe a lot of people are going to bring it up, especially if it looks like Xbox is going to try to hold on, or Microsoft is going to try to hold on to Bobby Kotick and allow him to continue to have a career there. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not expecting Microsoft to go in and get rid of Bobby Kotick right away. I'm not an idiot. I know that he probably, in the negotiation, he probably made a deal where he gets to kind of suffer kind of soften the blow when it comes to the price that he's going to pay, if any at all, for the things that happen at Activision Blizzard when it comes to sexual harassment. I understand that. But at the same time, I don't want to see Microsoft look like they're involved in cleansing Bobby Kotick in any way. In other words, they come out with a couple of great games and they let him take credit for it, and they let him do the rounds talking about it. I believe that Bobby Kotick need to get somewhere, sit down, and shut the hell up. That's what I believe. If they made an arrangement where he can stay there for a little while and just kind of bow out after a year or two, making it look like, the whole thing that happened with the sexual harassment had nothing to do with it, okay, that wouldn't be unbelievable to me. But at the same time, I don't need to hear from Bobby Kotick when this deal is done. I don't need to see any attempts to try to turn Bobby Kotick into a hero. I don't need to see any attempts to remake Bobby Kotick. I don't want to see that, because to me, that would be a clear indication that Microsoft would be indirectly complicit if they allow that to happen. And I will call it out. Now, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm not somebody that's going to keep making videos about it. Once I realize it, I'm going to call it out, and then I'm going to be done with it. I'm not one of these people that like to keep shouting out into the void and nobody wants to listen. I'm going to shout out into the void one time, and then I'm going to let it go. And then I'm going to go on with my life, and I'm going to go on enjoying games. But I will be on record as being someone who called Microsoft out for doing something that I think is vile and disgusting. Now, I know that a lot of the PlayStation fans may be willing to take advantage of the situation if this does become a topic of discussion in the media, but you have to remember this. Sony also has its problems with sexual harassment, as most conglomerates do. So you can't really, I'm not going to say you can't, because, you guys often do things that don't make any sense, but you can't logically point the finger at Microsoft Xbox if it looks like they're trying to cover up for Bobby Kotick, because there's also been some cover-ups when it comes to sexual harassment at Sony And like I said, not just Sony. I mean, most of these big conglomerates have the same issues. Now, most of them don't have a situation where somebody called them on the phone and threatened to kill them, call a victim on the phone and threaten to kill them if they insisted on going forward with the sexual harassment charges. Now, most of them don't have that, which only goes to speak to the fact that Bobby should not be allowed to just cleanse his reputation in any type of way at all whatsoever and just walk away from this like nothing ever happened. Now, preferably, I'd like to see him go right away, but if he doesn't go right away and they let him stick around, like I said, I know that he's one of the things we found out in this hearing is that Bobby Kotick is a shrewd businessman. So in order for this deal to go through, I'm sure he probably looked out for himself, at least his reputation. So realistically, I'm expecting Bobby to be around for about a year or two, but I'm expecting Bobby to not be in the forefront of anything good going forward. Like I said, I don't want to see Microsoft Xbox looking like they're trying to convince people that Bobby is not such a bad guy. Bobby is a horrible guy. Bobby needs his ass kicked. There's not one person that if a woman you love, whether it be your mother, your sister, your wife, or girlfriend, or whatever, that would not have wanted to put your foot up Bobby's butt for doing what he did, especially if he did it to a woman that you care about. So anyway, guys, let's go on and continue to celebrate the victory, man. I'm not going to keep talking about this very depressing subject, but I was feeling it, man. I felt like I wanted to say something. But we're going to go ahead and cut the radio, the radio, Jesus Christ. We're going to go ahead and cut the video short. And again, congratulations to everyone, man. Gamers overall win, especially if you're in Game Pass, man. It's about to get real good. We're about to start eating real good. So anyway, guys, it's Saturday now. I don't know when I'm going to be able to put this video up. I'm going to try to put it up when I get home later this evening. But anyway, guys, enjoy the weekend. And most of all, while you're enjoying the weekend, stay safe.